I just got back from Hawaii. I got back from Maui, and there was always a lot of talk or conspiracy on what really caused the fire. Now, I made the point to say, let's not talk about what caused the fire. That's not important, right? What's important right now is that we help the people of Lahaina stay there so they can stay in their land, because it obviously feels, due to the lack of transparency and withholding the truth, that they don't want those people there. I've said this is an orchestrated kind of gentrification. It seems like all the real estate investors, all the people with money, the ruling class, they want that land. There's been talk of 15-minute cities and whatnot. So therefore, they're very suspicious about what's going on. The people of Lahaina, they're also very suspicious because the people of Ukraine get billions of dollars while they get nothing. However, I think it's also okay for the people who are investigating every single avenue of what could have happened for them to investigate it, because what used to be a conspiracy theory 20 years ago, 10 years ago, is conspiracy truth today. And there's been a lot of talk about certain things in the media. I want to pull something up that was aired 9 years ago. Remember all that talk about lasers and laser weapons and whatnot? Is it possible? There's been a lot of talk about, was it used in Iran to go after a certain scientist? Do they use these things? And they call you crazy. You're crazy if you think there's any use of lasers, within our military against people. This was aired 9 years ago today. Take a look at this.
Lasers? Really? To change the weather?
That's right. Well, as Mark Twain once famously said, everyone complains about the weather, but no one ever does anything about it. Well, instead of doing a rain dance, we physicists are firing trillion-watt lasers into the sky to actually precipitate rain clouds and actually bring down lightning bolts.
Go ahead.
Well, this fascinates me in part because, too, I remember reading the stories that China had used this during the Olympics, that the USSR had used this after Chernobyl to create rain clouds. I mean, did those really work then? We have some of these capabilities now?
Inconclusive. Even in the 60s, the CIA used this to bring down monsoons during the Vietnam War, to wash out the Viet Cong. Governments have been playing with this thing.
Alleged to.
Alleged to.
I just want to point that out right there. That's one of the most important things, because people go, well, who's doing this geoengineering of sorts, this cloud seeding or this weather modification? And we've said for quite some time, the people who are into this sort of stuff, that it's always been the crown jewel of the military-industrial complex to use it. I don't have to go drop bombs or attack a country if I can control the weather and give them a drought and starve them out. Or I can rain them out. And this is the situation where this doctor, the scientist, is telling you that the CIA once used it. So people who are considered craziness for talking about chemtrails, right? Which we don't like to use that term. We like to use the term geoengineering, because chemtrails could be used as like a anti-propagandist kind of tool. We like to use the word geoengineering, but he's telling you the CIA has used it for years. There's documentation there showing that the military has tried to use geoengineering or weather modification to go after their enemies. In fact, I even pointed out one time the Iranian president, Ahmadinejad, accused Israel of using it along with the West to cause droughts in part of Iran, to starve people out, to try to turn them against their government. Because if you can starve them out and you can make them hungry, then they're easier to sway. So that's what this is about right here. So that was the most important thing he was talking about right there. And all those people that they bastardized, people like Mark Dice, it looks like, it wasn't a conspiracy theorist. It was a conspiracy truth. We used to say the difference between conspiracy theory and the truth is about 6 months. Huh. Now it's become like 6 days when you have Victoria Nuland talking about those biolabs in the Ukraine. I'm going to play the rest of this because it gets interesting.
Right. Yeah. Now, we realize that for decades now, these governments have been alleged to have experimented with weather control, but nothing conclusive. This time we're bringing in the laws of physics rather than simply waving our hands and uttering mumbo jumbo. We're actually using trillion-watt lasers now. And in the laboratory, sure enough, they precipitate rain out of water vapor. Sure enough, you can actually bring down electricity down the beam. Firing trillion-watt lasers, you rip apart the electrons, creating what are called ions. And these ions act like seeds, like dust particles, bringing down rain and even lightning.
And a lot of talk now has been about they're doing it because now that we are heating the planet too much, if we can control the weather or the clouds or make it rain, we can cool the planet easily. So now they're kind of using it a little bit against our hearts and, you know, trying to see sympathetic about it. This is a big one right here. This is the Council of Foreign Relations. This is Richard Brennan, ex-head of the CIA. Well, this is at the council.
John Brennan?
John Brennan, right? My bad, not Richard Brennan. John Brennan. At the Council of Foreign Relations. This is John Brennan right there.
Another example is the array of technologies, often referred to collectively as geo-engineering, that potentially could help reverse the warming effects of global climate change. One that has gained my personal attention is stratospheric aerosol injection, or SAI.
That is chemtrails. Geoengineering. That's when you look up in the air and you see it playing like tic-tac-toe, and everybody's like, are those just contrails, water vapor from the jets? No. That's what he's talking about right there. They're aerosolic sprays that have aluminum in it because they've done testing with this, and then maybe it could be moved with giant magnets from a surface down below so they can control the weather. That's what he's admitting to. For years that people couldn't talk about it. They were called the conspiracy theorists if they talked about it. Here's Brennan admitting it.
A method of seeding the stratosphere with particles that can help reflect the sun's heat, in much the same way that volcanic eruptions do. An SAI program could limit global temperature increases, reducing some risks associated with higher temperatures and providing the world economy additional time to transition from fossil fuels. This process is also relatively inexpensive. The National Research Council estimates that a fully deployed SAI program would cost about $10 billion yearly.
For only 10% what you get for the Ukraine war, we could do geoengineering and geoengineer the planet. What do you think about this?
Oh, you know, when you started the whole thing and they go, you know, it's inconclusive.
Yeah.
Michio Kuko was saying that it was inconclusive. I'm like, I actually want to know, how do they know that it's inconclusive? How do they know that what they have been doing with these lasers hasn't actually affected weather patterns or changed weather? That's just my observation, and I'm no scientist.
Well, you know, when you talk to a lot of guys, you know, guys over like Dane Winnington at the Geothermal Watch and whatnot, they'll tell you the aerosolic sprays that are coming down from, you know, these planes that are putting them out there, they're very unhealthy for the crops down below. They're very unhealthy for humans to breathe them. There's aluminum in there. You know what I'm saying? It's not good at all. But now it seems like the cat is out of the bag. Mr. Brennan announcing it at the Council of Foreign Relations, and we got more, you know, evidence of it going on. And then now they're kind of using it to prepare us. Now that the cat is out of the bag, people who were called crazy are no longer crazy. They're going to try to push it upon us like they're trying to use it to save the planet, preparing the United States for security and governance in a geoengineering future. And this is in 2021. As the increasingly severe effects of global warming generate greater interest in geoengineering technologies, the United States must prepare itself for the risk and uncertainties that come along with their potential development. So they are digging into the people's, you know, I don't want to say conscious, but their heart, their compassion to say, you want to help the planet over here. We have a problem. The man-made problem, we've gone too far. We've heated the planet too much. All us, you know, carbon peeps, you know, our footprints, our digital footprints, we've gone too far. We have no choice now. Now we have to use these methods to cool the planet. And that's how they'll get people to buy into this, by saying what they're doing is they're trying to reverse the man-made issue of us heating the planet too much and saving us from global warming. That's the avenue they're using right now. Preparedness for such a world will likely be multifaceted and will likely include improved understanding of how the global climate will change both with or without geoengineering, the ability to detect and monitor geoengineering activity worldwide, an adequate policy roadmap for deterring certain kinds of geoengineering activity, and for responding in the case of geoengineering deployment, by other nations, among other measures.
All right, so I'm immediately concerned when I see an adequate policy roadmap for deterring certain kinds of geoengineering activity. What are those kind of activities?
Yeah, it's if with other countries. Well, here's the thing, Steph. If the United States has a type of I don't want to say just necessarily warfare, but if they have a certain avenue, and let me use the sense of warfare. If the United States has a big subfleet, then China and Russia have to have a big subfleet to counteract it. If the United States is going along with biochemical weapons, then China and Russia have to do the same thing. If the United States is going to geoengineer and attempt to use it for weather modification, then the Chinese and the Russians have to do it. So what I think that this is an attempt to bastardize them by saying they're using it in a nefarious way or a negative way, but we're doing it because we want to save the planet. So that's what I think they are preparing for, because it even says right here, White House releases report on reflecting sunlight to cool the Earth. No formal study plan now. But once again, they're kind of implementing, we're going to do it to cool the Earth. We have to cool the Earth. If we don't cool the Earth, we're all not going to be here. And the key points of this is on Friday, the White House released a federally mandated report on solar geoengineering, which is an umbrella term that describes method of reflecting sunlight away from the Earth to cool the atmosphere. I mean, that says it all right there. The very first one. They're telling you what they're going to do. They're telling you why they want to do it. But they're hiding the fact that it's really the military-industrial complex looking to use it as a weapon to starve out their enemies, to hurt their enemies. If you can control the weather, you know, and I know it's kind of crazy when you think about it. I don't think people can control the weather. Well, they're sure as hell trying. And it says the Biden-Harris administration has no plans underway to launch a comprehensive research program into solar radiation modification, but the report lays out the case for what such a research program would look like and why it could be beneficial. The primary theme in the report focused on looking at solar geoengineering through a risk versus risk framework, meaning the risk of intervention versus no action whatsoever. And I bet you better believe that they're going to say they have to act. That inaction is worse than no action whatsoever. And that's what they're going to say. You know, I wish they would use the same theory on masks over here. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? The risk versus risk. Maybe they should do it that, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, I've been interested in bringing a story like this to the show because this stuff is for real now because they've let the cat out of the bag and they've admitted to it. They're just saying they're using it for good reasons and not negative reasons, but there is documentation for many years. And like I said, that Iranian president, Ahmadinejad, accused the Israelis of using it along with West help to starve out a certain region and bring a drought. And that's why I say it's the military-industrial complex's grand jewel. It's their shiny jewel. If they can do this, wow. But by doing so, hurting us, killing us, putting stuff in the air, hurting our crops, hurting our food, the whole 9 yards. Anything else? You want to read some super chats?
Yeah, but wrap your thing up.
Okay, so that's it, guys. I just want to bring that to the show and stuff like that. We have to start paying attention to geoengineering now, ladies and gentlemen. Now we can talk about it.
Hey, come see us on tour. We're going to be in Tampa, Boca Raton, Orlando, Dallas, Houston, San Diego, Bloomington, Illinois, Indianapolis, and Levittown, New York. Wow, that's a lot of dates. See you there.